Hey y'all, and welcome back to episode 2 of According to My Calculations with Brooke Castle and Fred, who's napping, so didn't want to interrupt that. I just wanted to start off today with a little bit of a disclaimer that I am still kind of trying to iron out exactly how I want this podcast to settle, right? Like, I don't have an exact agenda that every single week will meet, like, we'll have this segment and this segment and this segment, or it'll be posted every single Monday at 9 a.m. I'm still trying to iron those pieces out. I just want to still keep producing it as we get it ironed out, if that makes sense. Um, as it stands right now, my goal is to have a weekly episode, which I kind of skipped last week, so we're already down on that count. And I just want to, as far as time restraints go, I want to make sure that I just cover everything that I have listed, and we'll see how that timing works out. Um, but yes, so I do want to do weekly episodes. My goal, and one of my topics today was to talk about like how I do my scheduling and things that I do to make my like business side of things run smoother. So I guess hey, let's just dive right in, right? My goal is to have my videos and episodes uploaded weekly. Now, based on like my tutoring schedule and session schedule, Fridays and Saturdays are usually my shortest or lightest days. Um, However, Saturdays I tend to keep more for like personal days, or once I'm done with my sessions for the day, I kind of do what I want to do. I spend time with my husband, I spend time with friends, I spend time with family, whatever. Whereas on Fridays, I end up doing more like admin work, doing the behind the scenes part of the business where I make like marketing graphics or I post content for my tutoring page or respond back to inquiries I've received throughout the week or answer questions from parents, confirm schedules, do billing, all those kinds of things. So Friday feels like the more natural day. However, by the time I feel like I'm done with all those things and do sessions and like everything else, I don't want it to be like back burner, if that makes sense. So as much as I'm personally thinking that like Friday makes the most sense to commit to, I don't want to make that promise and then hold back on it. So my promise is weekly episodes, and I think the best fit would be to say that after, hi buddy, am I interrupting you? Sorry, you just woke up. Um, my best promise to make is that I will have them uploaded and ready to go at the very latest on Monday after editing and everything. Usually I can upload and post same night. It just depends on if there's any like additional editing that has to happen. So that's all that is. Um, but yeah, I felt like scheduling or just kind of my like behind the scenes stuff for my business would be a fun topic for this week simply because we just passed the first of the month as far as billing goes. We just got done with the holiday break. We're getting back into this like rhythm of school schedules. So I feel like it's a pretty decent time to talk about those things. Um, I've kind of explored a little bit of, not all, but I've explored quite a few different ways to try to figure out exactly how to get this like scheduling and sessions to go the smoothest as possible. Um, I used to, there was once upon a time where every Friday I would send out a message that would be like, I have the following spots open Monday, blank, 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 Tuesday, blank, blank, blank. And then as people responded back, literally first come, first serve, that's how I would book my sessions. Obviously, now that I have a few more clientele, I try to operate it a little bit differently. I also used to only do weekly, like week by week. Hey, this Friday I'm planning for next week. That Friday I'll plan for the week after, etc. Naturally, I had people that wanted to book further out than that, and so I kind of had to adjust that way and do where I'll have some people that'll book for the entire month. I have some people that'll pick their days for the semester and just say, hey, like till school's out, this is what my household's gonna need. Um, and then I got some people that are like, hey, for as long as you'll have us, we're going to keep this spot on Mondays at 3 o'clock, whatever. So, yeah, so I've got a couple of different options that people choose from. But the one thing that I do feel like has kind of helped me stay in somewhat of a routine is I personally, on my end, no matter how far in advance people have booked, I will always on Friday mornings, that's like a asterisk next to morning. On Fridays, I will send out a confirmation text, basically just saying, "Hey, good morning. I hope you had a great week. Looking at the week ahead, I have us down for example, Monday at 3 p.m. One thing that I think this has really helped me with is to kind of cut down on cancellations. First things first, some people will just, like I said, preemptively be like, hey, you know what, Mondays at 3 are great for us. We're going to keep that spot. And then this upcoming Monday just happens to be when their child has a dentist appointment. Or, oh no, soccer got rescheduled and now we're going to have to be out of town for that one day. So keeping the updated like weekly schedule is helpful to kind of combat that ahead of time. So people aren't having to like update at the last second and be like, oh my gosh, I just remembered today we won't be there or whatever. So it's nice to do that. But I will say that that used to, like having my iPad open with my calendar and then having like my notebook where I keep all like my handwritten notes and then my phone in front of me, like the whole organizational thing. It used to take me almost an entire, honestly, not even used to, it still does. It takes me roughly 1 hour to go through because I'll like type up a preset message and then I'll copy paste it and edit it for each person Monday at 3, Thursdays at 7, whatever, right? To each individual person and like customize to their household's sessions. Um, and it used to really frustrate me because I would get up Friday mornings and I would try to be like, okay, I'm going to get up early enough and get them done by a certain time. Well, back when I was still nannying part time, that would be a little bit disruptive because like Fridays I would be nannying and I would be busy because I'd have small children in front of me. If I tried to do it too early, I felt like it was rude to send out text messages at 7 in the morning. If I waited too late, I don't want to interrupt people's family time. Like it was rough to figure out like how I wanted that to work, right? Um, but one thing that I've really been liking is the new iOS update on the iPhone. uh, I have the ability to preset messages to go out later, to send them later. So what I'll do now is on Thursday evenings, I usually get home around 9:30, 9:45, depending on traffic, because my last session in person is from 8 to 9, and it's like other side of it's on the other side of the other town that I'm in. So with that being said, I'm usually home around like before 10 o'clock on a Thursday. So what I've started doing is Thursday nights, I will prep all those messages and have them ready to go and have them set to go out like Friday morning 8 a.m., Friday morning 9 a.m. And I send them out in waves so that I'm not getting back a bunch of messages all at once. So I've been able to kind of start figuring that rhythm out as well. So like anybody that I'm seeing Friday or Saturday, like immediate responses are kind of needed. I'll send those out Friday mornings 8 a.m. And then Sunday through Tuesday, Friday morning 9 a.m. And then so on and so forth. You good, buddy? Oh, okay. He's going back to sleep. So I've had that set and it's just been really nice to be able to kind of like have that routine going. Um, and then as far as it goes down to like billing and picking the schedule and things like that, spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are my thing. I've got them all organized that way and it's been pretty fantastic. I'll probably start recording and like updating more throughout like my different social media channels of like what my days look like from day to day because I feel like that's always fun and interesting to see about other people. So like I'll have more information there. Um, I also wanted to on that topic of sessions and how my days go. I kind of wanted to chat about like how the break went, right? Because tutoring is it's very easy to kind of associate that with like our school schedules and our school like homework schedules and homework calendars and people are like, oh, okay, so like for the holidays, like you just don't tutor. No. Actually, somebody asked me that and then was like, oh, will you still be tutoring over the summer? Absolutely. Very rarely do I actually take like an entire day off. Like during the Christmas break, obviously didn't do any sessions on like Christmas Day. Surprisingly, didn't do anything on New Year's Day either, which was not quite planned, but it just happened to work out that way. So I had 2 full days where I just didn't do any sessions, but I also had obviously lighter days where I'd only have like 1 or 2 sessions. But overall, I try to keep my schedule like pretty open so that people have availability as they need it. Because as much as I'd love to say, hey, I'm not gonna tutor for these 3 days and take a little break for myself or whatever that may be. I feel like the second that I set that parameter, I'm also like, oh wait, I need to, or one person will be like, oh, but I really need this day. So I try to keep myself open and available as much as possible without going like overboard, if that makes sense. Um, But yeah, so during the break, I guess one of the big questions that I usually get is what do we cover, right? Because like there's no homework, there aren't new lessons students are learning in school. So like what are we covering? Well, that answer looks a little different for everybody. Okay. So my homeschool students, we continue their curriculum as long as they are comfortable still doing so. Um, some of my homeschool students do like specific online programs where they kind of have the flexibility of like setting their own schedule so they can keep doing their work as often or as infrequently as they want to and any times or whatever. So we just kind of continue our pattern just to keep them in the routine of things. As far as like older students, like high school students, this is a really good time to go over SAT and ACT prep. Also, just like certain building blocks like essay writing, especially if college applications are coming up, things like that. Essay writing is good to look over. Um, I'll have some students that will just genuinely come up with, like, hey, this past semester, I really struggled with this topic, like um, the transformations of functions. So we can pull some old material and go over it as like a review. So that way, even though it may have been a misstep during the semester and they may not have gotten the best test grade or whatever, they have that building block still as they're going into the next semester. So there's a variety of things we can cover. Now, my little ones, my elementary age students, those are the ones we kind of get to have a little more fun with during Christmas break because we get to kind of pick our own activities. Now, we're always going to find a way to make it educational, but we get to pick our own activities. One of my students, she's in second grade, and one of her favorite things to do, we started this back when she was in like kindergarten. We would make a Christmas tree, like just crayon and paper, draw a Christmas tree, and we would decorate it, but we would do it by like numbers. We would do like um what we okay, so like the garland, we would skip count by twos, and then the ornaments, each one would be like by fives, and like add up whatever all is on there. It'd be like a Christmas, like a math Christmas tree. And she loves doing that every single year. So we keep doing stuff like that. I have another activity where I've got like this little box of letters that it looks like little magnetic letters you put on like your fridge, like little like alphabet magnets, but they don't have magnets in them. They're just letters. And so I'll have them like draw a letter out and they'll have to write a sentence with an animal and a food with that name, like Adam the alligator ate apples, right? Like just something where it's like kind of getting them to think outside the box, just doing kind of like word games, card games that you can turn into math games, all kinds of things. It's a really fun time because I love getting to have that like creative spin on essentially just math material or learning material. Also, other times students will come to me and ask me to provide things for them. For example, one of my sixth graders this year was like, hey, I want to spend this free time learning algebra. So we did. We found some like we went over the basics. We discussed how algebra is truly just solving a puzzle, right? We're looking for a missing piece and gave him some example pages and we did a couple of practice problems on our own. And then I left him with the page until I saw him again the next week. And he would send me updates throughout the week to be like, hey, I did two problems. Hey, I did three problems today. And so, it's just a fun time because we kind of get to explore things on our own. Um, okay, so speaking of finding a fun way to put spins on things, let's talk about how my Christmas went by the numbers. So my husband and I always do a Christmas card every year with like us and our dogs, a little family photo, whatever. And a couple years ago, I started handing out my Christmas cards, obviously not just like family and friends, but also to my clients. Well, the very first year I did it, I handed out the Christmas cards, and then I would give out like candy canes to the children of the household. Another big thing that I happen to notice frequently is that a lot of my households have their own version of Fred. Like they've got their own pets, right? And now I've got some families and some households that have variety of pets. Got I've somebody's got oh sorry. I've got some that have like I've got hamsters, I've got students that have axolotl, I've got a student that has birds, got lizards, all kinds of things, right? We see all kinds of things. However, one of the biggest things is like all the dogs. I'm a huge dog person. I love dogs. And then cats. The cats are fun and friendly too. So I started, since this was a couple of years ago, I did the Christmas cards and it's just kind of built from there. Last year, my husband ordered little stockings off Amazon that we kind of stuffed for the students. And so we continue that tradition again this year. So I, again, being a big spreadsheet person, I have a spreadsheet of how to establish Christmas. Basically, I'll have like a square for each household name. And then, so that's one card for them, how many students are in the household, how many siblings. So, like, let's say that in a household of three, I tutor a household of three children. I tutor the oldest daughter, but the youngest two don't get tutoring with me. Well, the oldest would get their stocking, and the younger two would get candy canes. Does that make sense? Like, my are the ones that get the stocking, their siblings are the ones that get the candy canes. Okay. So, and then of course cats and dogs, because I bring dog treats and cat treats that were like Christmas themed. So let me run through my numbers with you. So I had a total of 30 houses or 30 cards to hand out, um, 42 student stockings, and that broke down to be, let me remember real quick, it was 28 girls and 14 boys. Yes, 28 girls and 14 boys, because their stockings were different. Like, they're like main item in there. That's how I wrote those down. And then I had 36 additional sibling candy canes, 15 cats to hand out treats to, and 55 dogs. So that is fun because coming home to Fred and Duke, they sure love when I've gone and seen all the dogs for the week, because I come home smelling like all the other dogs. So that's my Christmas by the numbers. So I'd be interested to see and hear how other people's like Christmas lists iron out that way. If they did the same thing, I'd be very interested to see that. Speaking of holidays, I feel like another big thing that I've seen a lot of people, a lot of content be made of or made with has been the ins and outs for 2025. I'm not big on New Year's resolutions, but I think it's important to set goals. So, things like that. I just don't like the pressure of being like a New Year's resolution, like pass or fail kind of thing. But let's talk about our ins and outs for 2025. Tutoring slash math edition. So, our ins for 2025 are reading, a lot more reading. Um, Self care, prioritizing things for yourself and things that make you happy, not like self care as in like washing your face every night, like things that make you happy. Um, Setting boundaries, which I feel like goes with self care. Just having hard yeses and nos, because I feel like that's something that I personally struggle with. Um, Another in is pictures. I feel like every time I go to like post something content wise, I scroll through and I'm like, I don't have any good pictures. So taking more pictures, whether it is of people that I'm around, of things that I'm doing, spending time with my dogs, doing whatever. I just think pictures are important. I love taking pictures and having pictures. So I think that's an important one. Um, and then our outs for 2025. My outs are stress. I don't know how I'm getting rid of that one, how it's going to go out, but stress. My other out is putting pressure on things, like we talked about. Not big New Year's resolution person, so putting like pressure on having things like deadlines and things like that. Obviously, deadlines are a pretty natural thing. They come up on their own, like they're things that we have to deal with. However, I mean like undue pressure and unnecessary pressure that we do to ourselves. That's what's out for 2025. Um, Another one that I feel like is interesting and something I struggle with a lot is the over apologizing. So, in lieu of apologizing, I've heard this like theory of replacing your sorries with thank yous, and not like instead of, oh, I'm sorry I dropped your favorite cup, thank you, I dropped your favorite cup. No, but like swapping it, instead of like, I'm so sorry I'm running behind, as thank you for understanding, or something like that. So I think that'd be interesting to try. So, maybe that's one of the options. These last two are more directed towards my students. Turning in our work on time is in. Having missing work is out. That's a big one. So the next thing, okay, talking about doing like New Year's resolutions and things like that. I don't know, like I said, I've never really been big about doing a New Year's resolution. However, January is my birthday month. So I always feel like it's like a moment of like reflection for me, especially like going into like a big year, like last year. So 2 years ago was my 29th birthday, which was also my golden birthday because my birthday is January 29th. It was also the first year like my birthday fell during one of my husband's work trips, so I was kind of on my own. And it was the last year of my 20s, all the fun things. And last year being my 30th birthday, like that was a big milestone. My 30th birthday was actually one of the things that kind of like sparked the idea for this podcast because one of my students was like, "Hey, you're turning 30. Like, what kind of advice do you, as a 30-year-old, like of the life you've lived, what kind of advice do you have to give to students or younger people based on your 30 years?" And like the way she asked the question, I was just like, I don't want to say that I was stumped, but like I was like, huh, I don't know. What would I say? And so I feel like this kind of sparked this whole idea of like having the podcast to share things and ideas and all of that. So that was a big one from last year. So going into this year, being my 31st birthday, I decided to kind of do this thing called 31 Days to 31. I started it at the end of December and basically 31 days counting down to my 31st birthday. I'm trying to make small changes. For example, one of the big ones I'm doing, big ones, I literally just said small changes, whatever. The three main things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to track the food that I'm eating. I eventually want to get it to a point where I am doing better with like my calorie intake and making sure that I'm hitting like protein goals and things like that. For the time being, my main priority has been to track what I am eating, to just food journal, write down everything so I can have a visual of like if I see maybe I'm snacking more later at night or I feel like I'm having certain things during the middle of the day, like kind of just tracking that better. The second thing was trying to increase movement. Whatever my average set of steps is now, just try to get more steps than that. If I feel like I'm doing like if I feel like I'm having more active days when I have like a babysitting day when I'm around small children, fantastic. But like trying to get something similar to that whenever that's not the case, right? So trying to maybe do like a little yoga class off of YouTube in the mornings or something along those lines, like doing something that's increasing movement overall. And then the third one is, which I did talk about a second ago, is emphasizing self care. And I'm not meaning that in like starting a skincare routine. I'm trying to talk about like finding time to do things that make me happy. So like setting aside 20 minutes to read every night or 20 minutes to journal or whatever, which I also will say that I feel like this podcast has helped me with because I've just been writing down all of my thoughts and things like that throughout the week so I can kind of compile them for the episode. And it's nice because I can kind of reflect back and be like, oh yeah, that did kind of make sense. So, it was interesting to see there. Um, okay. I'm also just trying to make sure that I hit all the points that I wanted to, but it's fine if we didn't. Let's see. So yeah, so 31 days of 31, I thought that would be pretty fun to do and just kind of like I guess my whole goal is it takes 3 weeks, 21 days to establish a habit. So if I can do these things over the course of 31 days, then once my birthday comes, it's just going to be a normal part of my everyday and it'll just keep going from there, is the plan. So that was kind of my idea with that. Um, Speaking of reading, so do you feel like I talked about one of the things with 31 days to 31 was finding more time to read? I have my I'm in a rut. Okay. I have so many books on my TBR, my to be read list, but I also feel like I don't know which one I want to start with next because I'm at a point where it's like, oh, hello, my pen is in the way. I'm at a point where I feel like I have them on my TBR because of an ulterior motive. Like, for example, I've got two books on here that I want to read fact of simply for the fact of the matter is I want to watch the movie that they have recently. So I've got It Ends With Us and the Hunger Games Ballad of Songs of Birds and Snakes. I know both of those movies have already been out. They're already on like Peacock or Paramount or whatever. But that was the whole reason I got the books, was so that I could watch the movie, and I haven't read the books yet, so I haven't watched the movies yet. So I have those two sitting on my shelf. I also have Good Girl Bad Blood, which I have started. I'm a couple of chapters into it, and I originally started it before the holiday break because one of my homeschool students was actively reading the book. We were reading it together, and then that kind of got haywire with the break, and so ultimately, like, I want to get back to that, but I just kind of left off with that one. Um, for Christmas, I got a blind date with the book, which is a super cute idea if you haven't seen those. It's like a book that's wrapped up in paper, and it has little like stickers and bookmarks and little cutesy things, and then it gives like a brief synopsis of the book without you knowing what it is. So when you buy it, it's just a surprise. But that book was a not so meet cute. It sounds like a really good story, but it's on my TBR because I just got it for Christmas. And then I wrote down The Return. I don't know if that's the title of the book or if that's just like a hint, but I did buy a Nicholas Sparks book recently because it was on clearance at Walmart. So that's my TBR and the reasons behind them. I'll probably just pick back up with Good Girl Bad Blood because I'm already into it. But yeah, so I feel like I'm all over the place with that. Um, but then I'm like, okay, because I didn't get all the way through the book, do I start over with a whole nother book? I don't know. Anyways, speaking of all of the books, one of the big things that's been weighing on my mind recently is whether or not I want to invest in a Kindle. Um, I don't know. I just feel like I kind of want one, but not want one to the point of like it's in my Amazon cart ready to check out. Just like, hmm, I think I'd like a Kindle, you know? I have obviously have my phone, I have my iPad. I could always download like just the Kindle app or like an audiobook app or whatever. But I do think that it would be helpful to have the Kindle to be able to organize like books that I'm reading with students or books for like my book club over the summer that I do with my students, things like that. But I also just feel like, is it an unnecessary want? Is this something that I could satisfy with like just an app on my iPad? I don't know. I'm kind of trying to collect thoughts from like friends that have Kindles to be like, do you feel like this is worth it or not? So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on that one. I feel like it's just a kind of big question mark. I don't really know if it's like a necessity for me. But one thing that I was really interested in recently was discovering that the Kindle does have font options that you can change the font of whatever story you're reading. And one of the font options is a weighted font. So every letter is thicker at the bottom than it is at the top. And it's intended to help dyslexic readers, which I feel like could be really cool to have as a helpful tool for my students, you know? So I don't know. I don't know. Those are just the things that are weighing on my mind right now. So there's all of that. Let's see. Let's see if we've crossed everything off of our list today so far. Oh, almost everything. The last thing I wanted to go over was going back to my student who asked me about advice after being 30, which I don't even think I've ever answered her because I still have no idea. I'll keep thinking on it. I'll let you know on my 31st. Um, but I had another student who asked me because my birthday is, again, January 29th, in case anybody's taking note of that. It is on a Wednesday. And so one of my students was like, oh, are you, like, will you be tutoring that day? Like, will you still, like, one of my Wednesday students was like, are you still going to be, will you be here on that day? And I was like, yeah, of course. She was like, but it's your birthday. Wouldn't you want to just like stay home? And I was like, and do what? I feel like that'd be so boring. Like, I know it sounds very lame, but like, I don't know. I love working on my birthday. Even when I work like in an office, I think it'd be fun to be able to like go and be around like your friends and coworkers and stuff. But especially as a tutor, I absolutely love working on my birthday because I get to do what I love most. Like I get to be around my students, I get to see the families I spend some of the most time with, and I get to do math and reading activities. Of course, I'm going to do tutoring on my birthday. Um, those are at least my thoughts on it. I don't know. What do you guys do for your birthday as far as work goes? Like, I feel like it's a weekday, so it's just kind of expected, but also like I enjoy what I do, and I think it would be a lot more boring if I was stuck at home doing absolutely nothing. At least if I'm tutoring, then I get to like go out and do stuff. So yeah. those are all my thoughts. That's all I have for us for this week. Of course, I do still have my forms, my Google Forms, for any and all guests that would like to come and accompany me. Um, I won't, anytime I have a guest, I'm not going to do a full length episode of that guest. It would just be a segment of the regular episode. So if you're interested in being a guest and coming and joining me on on the iPad, on the podcast, please feel free to fill out that questionnaire, or just message me and let me know if you have any questions about being a guest, about what it entails, anything along those lines. I think that's it. I'll see you guys next week. Y'all have a great rest of your week.